In Stoic Men Tribe, today we're tapping into a powerful truth, a moment of inner strength, sharp clarity, and timeless wisdom. Share your thoughts in the comments. Please do us a favor by hitting the subscribe, button like, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Let's unpack it together. Walk away. Strength doesn't always roar. It doesn't always announce itself. It doesn't need to shake the room or win the argument. True strength, the kind that's earned in silence and refined in solitude, is quiet. It's still. It's the kind of power that doesn't need to be seen to be known. Sometimes strength isn't in the raised voice, or the fiery comeback, or the desperate attempt to be understood. Sometimes it's in the pause, in the breath you take before reacting, in the calm you choose instead of chaos, in the footsteps you take, not toward the fight but away from it. Not because you're scared, not because you're weak, but because you've finally grown tired of performing for people who will never clap for your healing. You've outgrown the need to prove your worth to those who are only comfortable with your silence, your compliance, your exhaustion. There comes a moment, sometimes quietly, sometimes after heartbreak, sometimes after giving too much, too often to too many. A moment when you finally feel the weight of everything you've been carrying. All the people you tried to fix. All the situations you tried to hold together with trembling hands. All the pain you tucked away just to keep the peace. And in that moment, a truth lands in your bones. A truth that can't be unlearned. You don't have to fight every battle that knocks on your door. You don't have to engage with every voice that calls your name. You don't owe your energy to spaces that disrespect your presence. Walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's the kind of wisdom that comes only after bleeding, only after losing parts of yourself in the name of loyalty. It's realizing that staying in arguments that go nowhere, in relationships that feel like survival, in environments that shrink your soul, isn't strength. It's self-abandonment, staying to prove something to others, while you quietly betray yourself. That's not love. That's not bravery. That's bondage. And bondage wears many disguises. Guilt, obligation, fear of starting over, fear of being alone. But freedom? Freedom looks like this. Closing the door softly, walking away slowly. Choosing peace, not out of cowardice, but out of reverence for your own spirit. There is a sacred kind of strength in letting go, in no longer forcing what isn't flowing, in no longer watering what refuses to grow, in choosing to save your energy for the things that are meant for you. Because not all battles are yours to fight. Not all love is worth holding on to. Not all people are meant to walk with you into the next chapter. Sometimes your greatest act of power is your absence, your refusal to engage, your quiet exit from the spaces that no longer feel like home. So walk away, not with anger, not with vengeance, but with clarity, with peace, with a heart that finally knows its worth. You're not giving up, you're rising up. You're no longer sacrificing your peace to prove you're strong. And that, right there, is the kind of strength that doesn't need applause. Because it knows, deep in its bones, it was never about being liked, it was always about being free. You will be tested, not once, not lightly, but over and over, by the very things that wear familiar faces. Life doesn't always send storms with thunder. Sometimes it sends them wearing smiles, disguised as love, wrapped in affection, dressed in loyalty. People will walk into your life holding what looks like care, but feels like slow erosion. They will drain you while calling it devotion. They will take more than they give and call it balance. And when you finally draw a line, they will call your boundary betrayal. They will test your silence. They will challenge your kindness. They will twist your peace into selfishness. They will watch you bleed and ask why you're not smiling. You will meet friends who love your light, but disappear the moment it dims. They'll dance in your joy, but vanish in your struggle. There will be lovers who speak of forever, but only show up halfway. People who want your healing, but not your history. Your energy, but not your honesty. Your time, but not your truth. They will push you to break for them, to bend your boundaries, to shrink your voice so theirs can be louder, to explain your worth to people who already decided not to see it. But here is the sacred truth. You do not owe your energy to people who drain it like currency. You do not owe your peace to those who trade in chaos. You do not have to keep offering your love to those who only love the version of you that stays small. You are allowed to leave, to walk away from friendships that only survive when you're convenient, to let go of partners who play with your hope but never hold your heart with care, to exit conversations that leave you hollow instead of heard, to stop showing up in rooms where your voice has to beg for space. Let them talk. Let them call you selfish. Let them say you've changed. Because they never witnessed the wars you fought in silence, the ones where you saved yourself. They never saw how hard it was to put yourself back together after each time you let someone else break you. You're not selfish for choosing peace over patterns. You're not wrong for wanting relationships that feel like rest, not war. You're not cold for walking away from what kept making you question your worth. You don't have to fight for love that wounds you. That kind of love is not love. It's manipulation dressed in dependency. It's control masked as care. And you've outgrown the idea that bleeding for someone is proof of devotion. You no longer need to argue for respect. If it's not freely given, it's already a cage. You no longer need to break just to belong. You're not here to carry others at the expense of yourself. You're not here to stay in spaces where you have to choose between truth and acceptance. You're not here to keep dimming your light so others feel comfortable in the dark. So walk away, with your head high, with your soul intact, with your boundaries honored like sacred ground. Walk away from anything that feels like survival when you were made to thrive. And if they say you changed, smile. You did. You finally started choosing you. Sometimes the deepest act of love is not staying, not explaining, not convincing, but quietly creating space between you and what once consumed you. Sometimes the boldest form of healing is distance, not as a punishment, but as protection. Not because you wish them harm, but because you refuse to keep harming yourself trying to stay. The world will tell you that love means holding on. That strength means enduring, no matter the cost. But the truth is, there are moments in life when letting go is the only path to freedom. When disengaging is not retreating, but reclaiming. When walking away is not weakness, but wisdom. So walk away, not with fists clenched or wounds still bleeding, but with your soul intact, with your energy guarded, with your spirit sovereign. Walk away, not because you're angry, but because you finally honored your healing enough to recognize what is no longer yours to carry. You don't walk away because you didn't care. You walk away because you cared too much, too long, too deeply, too silently. And it almost broke you. You've tried. You've explained. You've bent your heart into shapes it was never meant to form. You've stayed when staying chipped away at you. You've poured into people who left you empty. You've loved louder than you were ever heard. And now? Now you're learning something sacred. That your peace is not negotiable. That your soul is not a sacrifice. That your presence is a gift, not a guarantee. Let them say you've changed. Let them say you walked away. Because what they don't understand, what they won't understand, is that this version of you is the one you fought to become. This peace was earned. This strength was built. This clarity was born from nights no one saw. Where you learned how to hold yourself when the world dropped you. You're not here to explain your growth. You're not here to shrink so others can stay comfortable. You're not here to rescue people who drown in their own excuses. You are not a lifeline for those who refuse to swim. You are not the gravity holding someone else's collapsing world together. You are a soul with a mission. And missions demand direction. They demand stillness. They demand the courage to walk away from anything that fractures your focus. So walk away. From conversations that never evolve. From relationships that chew on your spirit. from dynamics that distort your light, from people who only show up when it's convenient. Walk away from those who confuse closeness with control, who weaponize your empathy, who take your forgiveness as permission to wound you again, who ask for your time but never your truth. Walk away, not to hurt them, but to finally honor yourself. Walk away from rooms that silence you, from tables where your voice is too loud for their comfort, from spaces where love is earned through endurance, where kindness is mistaken for naivety, where strength is measured by how much pain you can tolerate. You are not weak for needing peace. You are not fragile for wanting softness. You are not broken for no longer wishing to bleed for connection. You are whole. You are wise. And you are done begging for love that doesn't know how to hold you. So walk away, with grace, with power, with unwavering self-respect. Not because you've given up on people, but because you've stopped giving up on yourself. Because sometimes the only way forward is alone, clear, free, focused. You don't need a map. You are the compass. And with every step you take away from what once drained you, you step deeper into the life you were always meant to live. Walk away. Walk away from places that can't hold the weight of your becoming. From rooms where your presence is barely acknowledged, where your dreams feel like burdens, where your light makes others uncomfortable. Walk away from patterns that keep looping you in circles. Old habits, old wounds, old identities that no longer fit who you are becoming. Sometimes growth means outgrowing parts of yourself too. Don't stay just because the past is familiar. Don't stay because you have already invested time, energy, or love. Don't stay because you're afraid of starting over. Because truthfully, you're not starting over. You're starting from experience, from wisdom, from scars that have turned into lessons. Yes, it'll sting. Yes, there will be nights when your chest tightens with memories. There will be moments you long for what used to be. Not because it was right, but because it was known. You'll miss the laughter. You'll replay the good times. You'll mourn the potential. You'll grieve the version of the story you hoped would unfold. And that's okay. That's healing. That's the pain of choosing yourself after a lifetime of abandoning your needs to please others. But hear this. You are not selfish for protecting your peace. You are not cold for closing the door that kept letting pain walk through. You are not heartless for deciding that enough is enough. This is the sacred cost of self-respect. This is the quiet revolution of reclaiming your energy. This is the storm before the calm. So walk away with your head high and your heart intact. Not because you didn't care, but because you finally realized that caring for others should never come at the cost of forsaking yourself. You owe yourself loyalty. You owe yourself peace. You owe yourself the chance to begin again, in a space that sees you, supports you, and doesn't make you question if you're too much or not enough. Walk away, not to escape, but to return home to your soul. Because every time you choose distance over drama, you reclaim your mind. Every time you step out of the storm, you hear your own voice again. Every step away from chaos is a return to clarity, a sacred homecoming to yourself. Every time you exit a toxic space, you're not just leaving something behind. You're stepping into your power, your stillness, your truth. And yes, they'll talk. They'll say you changed. And you did. You outgrew survival. You outgrew self-betrayal. You outgrew being the one who always bends. They'll say you've gone cold. Let them. They never knew the fire it took to stay warm for people who only brought ice. They'll question your silence. But what they won't see is that silence became your sanctuary. A boundary. A shield. A place where you finally stopped explaining yourself to people who never listened anyway. You're no longer here to be understood by those committed to misunderstanding you. You are not obligated to prove your growth to those who preferred your pain. You don't owe your evolution to the ones who were only comfortable with your weakness, so let them talk, let them speculate. Let them turn your absence into a rumor, while you turn your solitude into strength. Walk away, not just from the loudness of others, but from the noise in your own mind that told you to keep pleasing, fixing, proving. Walk away from the addiction to being liked. Walk toward the discipline of being respected, especially by yourself. Walk away from reacting to everything. Walk toward responding with purpose, or not at all. Walk away from anything that tugs you backward. Old stories, old roles, old wounds that no longer define you. And walk toward peace, not the soft kind that avoids conflict, but the fierce kind that honors your boundaries, that doesn't apologize for rest, that no longer explains joy. Walk toward intention, toward mornings filled with clarity, toward nights that don't ache with confusion, toward people who speak your name with reverence, not resistance. Walk toward becoming someone you look in the mirror and admire, someone you trust, someone who doesn't flinch at loneliness. Because solitude taught you how to be whole. You don't need everyone's approval. You need your alignment. You need your voice. You need your peace. So let them say what they will. Let them create versions of you that suit their comfort, while you walk with quiet dignity, with rooted purpose, with a spirit no longer for sale. Because walking away is not a retreat. It is a return. To power, to peace, to you. You were never meant to be everyone's favorite. You weren't built for constant approval, for shrinking yourself just to fit into shallow molds. You were made for depth, for truth, for alignment. And sometimes, truth costs you connection. Sometimes being aligned with your higher self means being misaligned with others' expectations. It means creating space, not to punish, but to protect. It means stepping back, not because you don't care, but because you finally do, for yourself. And in that caring, you start to recognize what robs you of your clarity. You start to feel the weight of every room that drains you, every conversation that spins in circles, every relationship where love is conditional on your silence. The next time you feel pulled into a battle of egos, a war that demands your energy but gives you nothing in return, pause. Ask yourself, is this helping me grow? Or is it slowly draining the life out of me? If it's stealing your peace, taxing your nervous system, making you question your worth, then hear this. You don't have to stay. You don't have to fight. You don't even have to explain. You're allowed to leave, without guilt, without a dramatic exit, just a clear, quiet, and final decision. Because the most powerful person in the room isn't always the loudest. It's the one who could fight, could destroy, could retaliate, but chooses stillness instead. That's real power. Measured, focused, unbothered. Walk away. Not out of bitterness, not out of wounded pride, but because peace is now your highest form of wealth. And you refuse to bankrupt your spirit for temporary comfort or surface-level connections. Peace isn't a passive thing. It's not soft or fragile. It's earned. It's protected. It's enforced like a sacred boundary. And it requires choices, daily ones, to stay above the noise, to let go of being right in favor of being free, to stop proving your value and start honoring it. Walk away from the drama that pulls you down, from the people who confuse your kindness with weakness, from situations that trigger the lowest parts of you. Not because you're too good for them, but because you're finally good to yourself. Let them misunderstand you. Let them say you've changed. Let them tell their version of the story. Because your job is not to correct every lie. Your job is to live in a truth so strong, it speaks even when you don't. Protect your peace like it's sacred ground, because it is, because you are. Walk away, softly if you must, but firmly, without apology, without regret. Because this is not about rejection, it's about redirection. Back to your path, back to your purpose, back to the you that no longer begs for belonging, but builds it within. If this resonates with you, share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update.